IELTS Speaking Mock Test, 12 p.m., September 17, 2018. Cambridge IELTS 4, Test 1, Speaking, Part 1, Friends.
Let's go on to talk about friends now. Are your friends mostly your age or different ages?
I should say that some of my friends are my age while others are older than me. And I also have some friends who are much younger than me. Because I believe, making friends, it does not really depend on age. You can be friends with young people as much as you can be friends with older people. Because age doesn't really matter. Sometimes some young people turn out to be really, really smart. They happen to know the things that I don't know, while some older people don't really seem to possess the knowledge that I'm looking for in a friend. And it's also vice versa. Sometimes older people turn out to be smart as well, while young people turn out to be pretty, just focused on their daily activities, not really thinking about their life goals and stuff. Do you usually see your friends during the week or at weekends? I would say at weekends, because during the week I'm pretty busy. I don't really have time to meet with my friends. I'm at work most of the time, teaching students. And even after work, I come home and start working on my side projects. I started learning programming not long ago, and I've been working on that lately. So I don't really have time to go out with friends. But on the weekends, I do have some time. So do they. And that's why we hang out together, usually on the weekends. Yeah. The last time you saw your friends, what did you do together? I guess it was a week ago when a few of my friends got together and we went to a nearby cafe and we just hung out there, started sharing stories from our lives, things that we had learned, and we talked about funny things, we made fun of each other, and also after dinner we took a long walk home. Well, we didn't take a long walk home, we took a long walk to the subway station just to relax after this heavy dinner. We ate big dinner there, by the way. And we talked about the things that we'd learned and shared some really good stories. Yeah. In what ways are your friends important to you? There are few ways that I find my friends are very important to me. One is giving advice. Some of my friends, they know things that I don't usually know. For example, I have a friend who's really good at teaching, and whenever I encounter a problem in my teaching, I contact him, and he shares some of his strategies, some of the strategies that he uses in his class to make his class better. Another quality that I find important in a friend is, being helpful when you are in trouble, whether it is a financial problem, whether it's an emotional problem, So my friends, they're there for me. I have, it's not really all friends, but just a few friends who are really there. They're almost always there for you. In that way, they're very important, being supportive emotionally and financially. Now, let's move on to part 2. Part 2. Describe an interesting historic place. You should say what it is, where it's located, what you can see there now, and explain why this place is interesting. I'm going to tell you about an interesting place that I visited recently. It's a mosque called Hastamam. It's a very historical place which was built not long ago. There used to be another mosque in place of this one, but they took that mosque and they rebuilt it into much better, bigger version of the mosque. It almost looks like a small town. It is so big that it's almost a small town. It has all the historical pieces of a building. You know, if you look at it, it looks like it's kind of hard to explain, but it looks like a palace, but palace like you've probably seen this palace. What is it called? It's located in India. Its name escapes me now. It's called that white palace. Okay, so there is a white palace in India. It reminds me of this. So it is that big. You know, the one in India, it was built by Babur, but this one, it was built by the government here in Uzbekistan. And it's located near downtown. What is interesting about this place is the front of the mosque it's like an urban area where there are shops and restaurants and other amenities that you can find in a city, while the area behind the mosque is kind of rural, where you can find old traditional houses with only one floor buildings. So yeah, but it's a really, really nice place, I should say, and the people are very friendly as well. And now if you go there, you see a new, what is it called? Oh yeah, you can find a new shopping mall, which is pretty huge. It's almost ginormous, I should say. You can find all kinds of things inside that shopping mall. And in the mosque, right inside the mosque, there are small little shops where you can buy embroideries, where you can find this small boxes, handmade boxes of they're kind of a piece of craftsmanship, and those things are really, really good. Yeah. And what I find really interesting about this place is that there is this original version of the Quran, the holy book that Muslims have, and when I saw it, I was pretty amazed because the book was huge, and the paper that the book was made of doesn't look like the usual papers that you see on a regular basis. That I found very interesting, and what was more interesting was how it was kept in that state. It had not been damaged at all. It looked like it looked ancient, but at the same time it looked new. It's really hard for me to explain that, but yeah, that made me really that took me by surprise. Okay, part 3, looking after historic places. How do people in your country feel about protecting historic buildings? Historic buildings they're kind of this tourist attractions that generate money in my country, and also they kind of the place where you can learn about the history, and for that reason the government tries its best to reserve those places and invest some money in it to make them better looking for tourists and for the locals as well. And people feel that those buildings have to be kept for as long as possible, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, and for some other reasons, such as making the city beautiful, right? The buildings that we have nowadays, they kind of the places where you can just go and hang out, and it's really nice to look at. Do you think an area can benefit from having an interesting historic place locally? In what way? Yeah, I do think that there are some certain benefits locally, benefits of having an interesting historical place locally, and it is first one is, I think, financial benefit, because if you let's say it's a small museum, right, or a mosque, right, or let's say it's a museum, and if you put a fee on the entrance, then that small place will be making money as a result, right? The building will be generating money, which is good. And the people who are in charge of taking care of the building, will have some cash. So it's better for their family as well. That's one thing. And the second thing is that, most people are visual learners. So for that reason, having a historic place is probably the best way to learn about the history. Yeah, because you can actually see what it was like back then by simply looking at the building and looking at the pictures on the walls and stuff and learning about the history. What do you think will happen to historic places or buildings in the future, and why? I believe that the importance of historic places will increase in the future, because the older the country grows, the more important its history becomes, because your history is your identity, right? As a country, you need to have an identity, and that identity shows you as a group of people, right, who are somebody. It's not just everybody, right? So every country has to have its own identity, and in order to have that, a country needs to preserve their historic places. Thank you.
April 14, 2019, 11:28 a.m. Cambridge IELTS 7, Test 1, Part 1. How do you usually contact your friends? Well, it really depends on where they are. If they're here in Tashkent, I just give them a phone call, because that's probably the fastest way to reach them. Or I might just text them. But if they are in another country, then I may send them a message via Telegram or WhatsApp. Do you prefer to contact different people in different ways? Well, not really. Nowadays, most people have this social media apps such as Telegram and WhatsApp, and pretty much everybody uses them. And because of that, I just use the same thing almost every time. But sometimes I may prefer one over the other. If the person that I'm trying to contact is a close person, so I may just give them a phone call. Do you find it easy to keep in contact with friends and family? Not really, because I am a pretty busy person with a very tight schedule, and a lot of times I find myself, doing things and being unable to contact friends as often as I should due to my schedule, But I try to keep in touch with them even though I'm busy, and I usually do that via Telegram. In your country, did people in the past keep in contact in the same ways as they do today? Definitely not, because in the past they didn't have the internet and they didn't have the telephone either. If we are talking about way back when there were no telephones and or anything like that. But now we have the internet, which is probably the best thing that happened to us over the past 10 years or something. Yeah, in the past, people usually contacted their friends and family members by just visiting them or sending them a letter in very rare cases. Okay, let's move on to part 2. Part 2. Describe a party that you enjoyed. You should say whose party it was and what it was celebrating, where the party was held and who went to it, what people did during the party, and explain what you enjoyed about this party. Okay. When I got into one of the top 5 international universities in Tashkent, there was a party that I think I will never forget because the memory, I mean the feeling, not really the memory itself, but the feelings I got from the party, I had never experienced anything like that before. So in 2010, I got into this university called MDIST, which stands for Management Development Institute of Singapore in Tashkent. And after about 2 weeks of orientation, 2 orientation weeks, we were invited to a party where each group had to represent their group to the rest of the university community by performing something on stage. And our group decided to dance to music, to a song called Hit the Road Jack, and Never Come Back. Yeah, that was the title. And they asked me if I would like to join, but since I was much older than my group mates, I just decided to do a solo dance. You know, I try to get out of my comfort zone as often as possible to improve my confidence and stuff. So I took on the challenge and started preparing for the show, for the party, and I practiced my dance steps. I rehearsed my dance steps every single day for hours, for several hours. And when the day came, I think I was ready, but still I felt this stage fright, and it was kind of hard for me to get on stage and perform my dance. But even though I felt this stage fright, I did it. When I got on stage, I felt this adrenaline rush. I could feel blood rushing through my vein, and while I was dancing, I could hear people cheering, which meant that they actually liked what I was doing. And the most unforgettable part was when I did the Michael Jackson's Lean Forward move, and the whole crowd screamed. Whole crowd shouted so loud that I could, because of that, I never forget this experience. And I could feel that they actually loved what I was doing, and I felt like a rock star. Okay, part 3. What are the main reasons why people organize family parties in your country? Well, mostly it's the reason why people get together in our country is to keep in touch with each other and find out what other people what the relatives are up to. And but other than that, it's just to maybe because people like to hang out with each other. That might be another reason why people do this. Okay. In some places, people spend a lot of money on parties that celebrate special family events. Is this ever true in your country? Do you think this is a good trend or bad trend? Well, yeah, this is true for my country as well. A lot of people save money almost their entire lives to prepare for their wedding. The wedding is probably the biggest event in people's lives. So they try to make it as memorable as possible by investing a lot in it. So they, they invite the best singers and they rent the best wedding hall and stuff. But in my opinion, that's not a very good way of celebrating this special event, or it's not a very good way of going about organizing parties. In my opinion, a person really has to think long term, not short term, because there is life after the wedding as well. And I believe that it's better for people to save up some money and have a small wedding party, and then after that they can go on a honeymoon, they can travel, they can go to other countries, and then have some unforgettable memories there. So in my opinion, that's a much better way of going about this. Are there many differences between family parties and parties given by friends? Well, I wouldn't really say that there is a big difference, because it's pretty much the same. People just set a table and invite 5 to 10 people, and in both cases, whether it's family or friends, depending on the number of people that they want to invite, really. But on average, it's 5 to 10, and they just set the table, and then they sit around a table and discuss some issues that they have currently, and share some experience and some life stories as well, just to keep updated. What kinds of national celebrations do you have in your country? Well, one of the biggest ones is probably Navruz, which is celebrated on March 21st every year. To us, this event, this celebration this day is the beginning of New Year. To us, meaning to Muslims living in Uzbekistan. I don't know if it's true for Muslims living in other countries, but for people living here, that's what it means. And we also have Eid Ramadan, which is another big event that almost all people celebrate. And it falls on different days. And I cannot really tell why that happens, because at the moment I can't really remember. And we also have Independence Day, where everybody hangs out in local parks and restaurants and cafes and celebrate our independence. The day our country finally became one country that is not really connected to USSR. Who tends to enjoy national celebrations more, young people or old people? I think it's more young people that enjoy national celebrations than senior citizens, and the reason for that is because young people, they can go to different places, and they have the energy to do that. They can hang out in local parks and try different attractions and stuff, and they can even organize competitions, right? And they can walk all day long. But senior citizens, I think they prefer to stay at home and just enjoy a family dinner rather than going out and hanging out with friends. Yeah, but in my opinion, it really depends on the person, right? You can't tell what one person enjoys and what the other person doesn't enjoy, right? I mean, for senior citizens, just sitting at home and watching TV and talking to their family members might be something that they really enjoy. But for young people, it may not be as enjoyable as it is for the senior citizens. Why do you think some people think that national celebrations are a waste of government money? Well, that is a pretty difficult question. I have never thought about that. But let me answer it this way. I think when national celebrations happen, when they are organized, there's not much happening to improve a country's economy, right? People just go out and hang out, and most of the things Most of the governmental organizations, they stop working, right, on a day for a day or two, and that may not be a very good thing to improve the economy. So I think government doesn't make as much money as they should during holidays, and because of that, they don't really prefer this. And as for me, I would really disagree with this view. You know, you really have to have some days where you can just rest and relax and just chill out with friends and family members, because if you don't, you might have what is it called? Burnout, right? They call it burnout. You may get burnt out and you're pretty exhausted, and that might affect your productivity level, your productivity and your efficiency and your performance at work and at home as well. So that's why we need some time on our own, and we need some days where we can just rest and relax and enjoy life.